I think now though, because this last Sunday, and again, it's all first tournament. First tournament, everyone's trying something new, but it was greatly diversified. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 unique decks.
18 unique decks. Ha 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 ha. What's up, everybody? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rye Report. It's been a little while. Rye was out on assignment. I was in the back cleaning a lot, so I didn't have time to come out and get Rye in here last week for last week's Rye Report. So we got to get in here and get this one done. So how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Circus. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. A lot has changed since the last time you were in here. In case everybody's wondering, right now we're watching Battle Phase Prime. This is our big weekly tournament, pay to enter. So this is a semifinal match right now between Hey Craig and Socram, and we'll go into the finals, I'm sure, as we go through the report here. This is another one that Rye casts. So he saw a lot of top tier play, maybe, or at least a lot of people trying hard, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a fun tournament. I think that matchup was Thunder Dragon Ritual Beast, I believe.
Yes, very good.
So it's been an interesting meta for sure. Since our last Rye report, I think the last Rye report came out just when the new Blue Eye support came out. Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere around in there, yeah.
Something like that. So a lot has changed.
Yes.
The first thing that's changed is we're seeing a huge uptick in anti-meta decks. So before I said that I think the 3 top decks going into the new meta game would be Noble Knights, Desperado, and then whatever anti-meta deck shows up, probably Goki is what was from last Damage Step. That was that video.
And how did that turn out for you?
It turned out Desperado cannibalized
yes
anti-meta and became anti-meta. It is wild.
So that's the way the power rankings kind of shook out too. Those 3 decks were like 5 points apart in the rankings.
Yeah, it was Noble Knights, Desperado, and Blue Eyes, right? I think.
No, it was Blue Eyes, Desperado, Noble Knights.
Yeah, in that order. So it's Blue Eyes, which is funny because the structure deck did nothing for Blue Eyes. It was the alternate dragon, which, to be fair, you're running more like 1.5 alternate dragons, right? Because you've got the alternate dragon, then you have the melody, which has a cost of discarding, but I mean, it's Blue Eyes. They like discarding, so they don't really care. Which gives them that alternate dragon. An alternate dragon, before people were looking at it as playing 1 extra alternate dragon, but in reality, it's more like 1.5, 2 alternate dragons, which makes it a little bit more consistent. It still bricks a lot, but that deck, even before it was bricking, was going off like crazy. So you make a little bit less bricky and it goes off even harder.
Well, they have a real easy time playing through boards, because just when you think you can floodgate something or take care of a monster, then they just kind of weasel out of it, right, and go into the next play.
The monster. But probably the biggest meta shift, besides just Blue Eyes becoming stronger, is people starting to main deck outs to light monsters. So just Ally of Justice Quarantine being the biggest one, putting Desperado back into that kind of anti-meta type of deck being played, where they really just want to go first and set up as much floodgates as possible, head judgings, Ally of Justice, Necro Valley if you have it, just to stop anything that's happening. So that's like the big meta changer that came into it. The other thing is the new box. New box came out. We've had 2 DLE tournaments since the new box has come out, one being a paid $100 $120 tournament. So people are try-harding more. And while it's still too early to give solid results, especially on the week where both MCS and Damage Step are going to happen, where you'll definitely have results of what's going to be good in the metagame. It really seems that for the most part, the meta is going to kind of stay the same.
Well, if I remember correctly, in Damage Step, Battle Phase Prime, there wasn't any photons, right? Or very few, and none made it to the top cut, or it was real limited number, right? Photons.
There was like a couple that entered, or I think there was one that entered, and he ended up not topping. in battle phase the day before, one made it to top 16, which isn't bad, but nothing to like write home about.
Right. So you're saying the boxes out. We're pretty much looking at the same meta, because the new box really, besides the XZ's monsters, really haven't done a whole lot. Like the new archetypes or the Onomat support, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, the supported archetypes. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. So I guess we can start there, kind of with the new support. The new Xseeds are really good, and they've got really good future proofing in them as well. They'll be really good, but arguably the best one is going to be the Bowser. Or Bonzer, whatever you want to call him.
Oh, it's Bowser now on stream,
Bowser.
isn't it?
It's always Bowser. Yeah, I got used to call him Bowser. He is probably the best one, and he's best used in Thunder Dragons.
And which one? What does he do?
So he's the one where you can negate a monster effect when it goes to activate itself.
Okay.
Which is really, really, it's like Madame Veer's negation. Remember how when people throw down the Solitaire, and then Madame Veer would negate, and they tribute anyway, and they don't realize, oh wait, he's still negated.
Okay,
that's what Bowser does, but in return. So if you throw down Merlin, activate Merlin effect, activate the Bowser, it's negated. He can't go through, even though he's already off the field. Same with Ritual Beast monsters and stuff like that. So very, very powerful level 6 monster. Thunder Dragons have a very simple time making level 6s. A lot of people going into this box were like, oh, Onomats are going to be crazy because they're going to be able to build, all these different Xseed monsters, turn 1, turn 2, they'll be like, just whatever Xseeds you want, you make it.
Which we did see, right?
We did see. We saw an Onomat go first and make Roach Bowser against the Thunder Dragon, and then the Thunder Dragon won.
Yeah, we actually put that up as a clip, I think, on YouTube. The guy just completely dismantled that board.
Yeah, it comes down to, even though Onomats have an amazing opening hand, it's due to their skill being very, very, very powerful, essentially letting you create whatever board you want. But the resources you put into that, you're gassed afterwards. You have no recovery. You really don't even have follow-up. Whatever board you created has to sustain you for a couple turns until you just top deck normal cards, and there's no powerful singular draw that you can pick up. For example, Noble Knights, if you have Gwynnefer Engrave, drawing a Merlin or drawing a Madrot or drawing like all these are powerful just top decks as long as you have Gwynnefer in the grave. Blue Eyes White Dragon, while not having any singular tops, if you could, for example, with the Ultimate Dragon skill, you have a Blue Eyes in hand, you top Blue Eyes, you're good to go. You activate your skill, or you add alternate back to your hand from the graveyard, summon alternative, and you have plays. Onomats, they really they don't have anything like that. They just they have the Go-Go Glove. If you are able to top deck a monster, that's a proper naming. So I believe it's the I think it was God Code or whatever. There's like 2 monsters that I can proc off of from the graveyard. And you're playing like all these different named monsters in there. It's just you can't count on your recovery, and you can't count on follow-up. You just have to hope whatever board you created from your opening hand is that go-to board that's gonna win you the game.
Are they running a lot of back row?
I've seen variations, right? People want to play True Nade and just OTK. Some people play some back row. I don't think it's going to be a back row deck. I don't think they have the space.
Because we've kind of seen that, like the game on screen right now, there's no back row at all. We're seeing that. Yeah. We're kind of moving to that direction with some of these decks that are coming out, right? Or the meta's kind of shifting a little bit.
Yeah. I still think back row is going to be very powerful. Book of Moon is now really good.
Yeah, we saw that, definitely.
Yeah. Bowser and Roach and all these cards, if you Book of Moon them, before your turn even starts, you don't have to even worry about them, and your opponent just wasted a bunch of cards making those monsters that now are irrelevant. They don't even matter. So really, really powerful card coming into the metagame. But as far as Automats go, it's still too early to tell. I would still like to see more data. I don't think it's going to be the deck to beat by any means necessary, especially when other decks like Thunder Dragon are making. That's how Thunder Dragon won. They made their own Bowser. And then they just kept they had so much more graveyard resources. They just played through. They broke the initial Onomat board, and the Onomat player was just top decking at that point. Right. So while it's a deck that can OTK going turn 2 relatively easily, if it became a deck that ever actually became powerful, people would just run like 1 or 2 Sphere Karibos in the main deck, and it would just immediately die. I feel like. Anyway.
Something Neg and I were talking about in a video was decks having in-game engines that can generate card advantage. Is that something like Onomats? I keep screwing that up. Onomats don't have then?
Yeah, they don't really have that. So for example, I'm assuming he was talking about Noble Knights, the trap card. Is that what
we're just talking about it in general.
In general,
just like,
yeah. So yeah, just for example,
Noble
like
Knights are a good example of one that
if you open any of your Madrats, any of your Boars, any of your Merlins, so that's 8 to 9 cards, right? You play them, you a card, you have at least either 2 traps in the grave or 1 in the grave and 1 available to go into the grave. So that's 2 monsters that can be summoned off of that, right? So that 1 Boar has generated you so much advantage off of that. And Onomats just don't have any plays like that. Same with Photons, really. Photons, same situation. You have an amazing turn 1 hand due to your skill, adding like really good power. But if you're not able to destroy your opponent with that opening hand, like don't count on yourself just top decking into anything useful, because a lot of the Photon cards are even worse off because they have like, oh, special summon but can't attack, or oh, special summon but can't do this, can't do that, can't, it's just so many restrictions. Or you can special summon, but if you normal summon, you only have 1,000 attack versus 2,000 attack. And,
so like for these decks, there isn't really a gatekeeper that's keeping them out. It's almost like they're keeping themselves out.
Yeah, they're just incomplete. It's kind of like Xian, right? When if Xian was available in this metagame, he would be a better like turn 1 negate, because you can't book a moon him because he would just negate it, right? And then he'd be available on the board for like dual wield or something. Where these other Exceeds decks, they're making powerful monsters, but then they get book a moon or whatever, and then every deck is like ready. All the top decks besides like Noble Knight, because they can't, are playing the Book of Moon now. So
it's like maybe a Forbidden Lance in the deck or something like that, maybe? Or is that just there's no room? Or
see, the problem is if you have Forbidden Lance, you have to set it if you're going first, and if they have Cosmic, you're just in the same situation. So
it's just not a good situation.
Just too open. Yeah. Granted, people can be hiding lists, for MCS and Damage Step later this week, but I don't think that's going to be the deck to be. I still think right now the deck to be is Noble Knights. It's hard to argue that it's not.
I would argue, sir, with you, just because Blue Eyes last week 5 tournament victories, Noble Knights 0 tournament victories.
But Noble Knights just won a tournament after the new box support, because Abyss Dweller has been destroying Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Oh, so they're not even getting a chance to match up then, huh?
They're not even getting a chance to match up. Noble Knights and Blue Eyes are kind of in a weird position where they're essentially the same deck. You go first, you set Karma Cut, you go first, you play Merlin, you usually win the duel. And every other deck is now main decking cards to out you in the main deck. The only difference is when you think of past decks where this happened to, where, for example, Kristrons were heavily side decked against, Ritual Beasts heavily side decked against, even having cards in the main deck, all those decks fell out of the metagame. Noble Knights is still, I mean, they were only like 4 points away from.
Yeah, it was real close. It was like 4 or 5 points total.
Yeah, so realistically, that's not even like a big enough gap to really be like, oh yeah, that's
but it was significant this time just because Noble Knight's been in top for like a month straight. So to see them fall to third.
The drop is pretty bad. The drop comes from mostly, like I said, the main deck. Ally of Justice Quarantine was probably the worst one.
Yeah.
Because
you have to deal with that first before you can do anything else.
Yeah, that floodgate is just really bad. And it's one of those scenarios where it's like, it's really nice that Blue Eyes also became meta, because if it was just Noble Knights, you could argue that, okay, I'll just put this in the side when I face Noble Knights. But because both those decks became meta and both of them have high representation, it became very safe to put the Quarantine in the main deck.
Both those decks represented 275 times this past week. So both of those decks 275 times.
Yeah, so putting things like Necro Valley, Quarantine, DNA Surgery, Zombie World, like all these cards that really just wouldn't be that great, like DNA Surgery, really? Zombie World, really? They become significantly safer because, or at least things like Quarantine become safer because you have other decks that'll probably get hit by them. Because there have been some duels where you go into game 1 and the guy, it's like Desperado versus Neos. And he plays Quarantine, the Desperado, and then the The Neos discards Light Imprisoning Mirror for cost for Karma Cut, and you're like, I wonder what's getting sided out for game 2. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So, we do have to keep in mind that we are now kind of in that phase where the heavy side decking, main decking happens. But I don't know. I still think it's the deck to beat, especially if it has that many points with
no tournament victories. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's how many top 4s and top 2s.
Yeah, that, and they did just win a tournament. So that's kind of data before the new box. With the new box, because of Abyss Dweller, so Abyss Dweller stops graveyard effects from activating. And the one advantage Noble Knights have over Blue Eyes is Blue Eyes, once the stone goes in the graveyard, has to activate in the end phase. So Abyss Dweller has the entire turn to activate to stop that from happening. The Noble Knight Trap, when it goes to the graveyard, can't activate it that turn anyway, and you have to wait until the next turn. So no matter what happens, when Abyss Dweller goes to activate his effect, you can chain the trap, and the Abyss Dweller can't do anything about that. If you activate trap first and then the Abyss Dweller goes off, the trap isn't stopped. It still goes through, because that's not how Abyss Dweller works.
If you want to explain the Abyss Dweller, Noble Knights and Abyss Dweller real quick, in case someone hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah. So if we read Abyss Dweller real fast, I actually have it up here because I just got it out of a box. Let's go. While this card, that part's irrelevant. The 500 attack, that's only relevant for Sharks. But the next part, once per turn, during either player's turn, detach an Xyz material. Any card effect that activate in your opponent's graveyard cannot be activated this turn.
So you're not even negating it. You're not
negating effects. So they can't activate anymore. So if they have already activated, you can't stop the activation. It's already happened, because you're not negating the they can't do it. They're not negating anything. It's just you can't do it anymore. So anything that can be chained from the graveyard, for example, the Noble Knight Trap, can just chain to it, and then they still get their resources anyway, which you saw happen a lot between when me and Mike-1 did the Omega video. He played Noble Knights, and he would just keep chaining to all my Abyss Dweller effects, and it just didn't do anything for me other than being a 1700 beater at the end of the day.
So how do Noble Knights use it? Because typically we see them go into their rank 5, then maybe later into the custom. And are they deciding to go into the Abyss Dweller in just kind of situational, or?
I don't think Abyss Dweller is going to be put in Noble Knights. I think
against Noble Knights. Okay, the way you were saying, I thought you were saying they're playing it into the Noble Knights.
No, against them. Because Blue Eyes has had awful stats these past couple. I'll actually pull it up. Jason was making a point about this when he was because he does the tournament breakdowns, and this could just be people wanting to play the new stuff. At least the Sunday tournament, you could argue that. I'm not so sure about $120 tournament.
Right.
But the Sunday tournament, I could see that. But if you look at it, Blue Eyes White Dragon, 14 entered compared to the 21 Thunder Dragons and 21 Noble Knights for Battle Phase 184. And we look at the top cut, and we see that 4 Noble Knights topped with 5 Thunder Dragons, which I believe Thunder Dragon is going to be a new threat, especially with them kind of being the best users of Bowser. And 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon ended up topping. That is a really bad conversion rate. And then when you look at Battle Phase Prime, 7 Blue Eyes White Dragons topped, or sorry, 7 entered, and 3 ended up topping.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
That, which is, better. But 50-person tournament, highly competitive. It tends to happen.
Right.
Both of those decks are highly sided against, which is letting Thunder Dragons kind of run rampant.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit. Because the counter to Thunder Dragons is going to be Necro Valley, right? Like that's going to be the big counter, and they can play Cosmic Cyclone to get around that. It's not the end of the world. The thing too is a lot of people are doing like DNA surgery or Zombie World specifically for nobles, and then you have Quarantine, Light Imprisoning Mirror for more light and generic light monsters, right? To counter Blue Eyes as well. So that's kind of like what the top 3 decks, they're literally just kind of playing around each other, side decking, and just kind of getting countered in that fashion. But if I had to choose one that's kind of worrisome to look forward to, I feel like it's the Blue Eyes White Dragon, right? Because the stones go into the graveyard, Abyss Dweller's on the board. Before the end phase, Abyss Dweller says, I'm not going to let you activate your effects. No stone can summon from the grave anymore. which is really, really bad. And you can't, for example, as long as the Abyss Dweller just activates his effect, you can't do anything from the graveyard. Your stone to add to the hand, anything like that. It's just cut off totally. Also, Light Imprisoning Mirror seems to be an issue. I don't know if Blue Eyes needs to start playing Cosmic Cyclone or what the issue is when it comes to that. But Light Imprisoning Mirror has been a really, really, really terrible card for them. Of course, Noble Knights, they can just bring out their dark monsters and swing with Gwynnifer and try their best to play around it as much as possible. But Blue Eyes seems to depend on the Spirit Dragon. Yeah, right. They're just like, I'm not going to side deck Cosmic. I'm just going to play Spirit Dragon. So we'll see. We'll see how optimized lists go forward. I think there was actually a Blue Eyes that won without a Spirit Dragon. I think that was before the sport, though.
Right.
So that was pretty funny. But we also had that same Blue Eyes player. His entire side deck was 3 DNA Surgery, 1 Light Imprisoning Mirror, and 3 Axe Raiders. So
3 Axe Raiders.
Clearly just only cared about beating one deck, like the rest he just didn't care about. So very interesting.
But the new box, though, we're just kind of looking at it maybe as a one-time through thing, just to get those Exceed monsters.
If you get the Exceed monsters, I would chill. Don't go in for Photons. Don't go in for Automats until they prove themselves. Automats have been doing very poorly across all tournaments. Let's see, Battle Phase Prime, 6 Automats entered, so 1 less than Blue Eyes, 0 topped. That was a top 16. And then we look over to Battle Phase Sunday, which again was the first day tournament, free tournament. We had, I can't even find, there we go. So they had 10 entered and 4 topped, which isn't that bad. To be honest, they also made finals, I think, in that tournament. They made finals versus Noble Knights. Yeah, they made finals versus Noble Knights. Ended up getting destroyed 2-0, unfortunately. I think they went first both times. I don't think they got an opportunity to go second. The difference between Automat going first and second, you know how like Noble Knights, when they go second, you're just like, oh man, how is this deck even good? You know what I mean?
Am I going to get to play? Yeah.
Automats kind of feel the same. If they go second, you're like, wow, that's broken. If they go first, you're kind of like, what is this? This is so bad. This is awful.
Well, I remember doing clips for Battle Phase Sundays to put up the new decks on the YouTube channel, and there's plenty to choose from. And then doing Battle Phase Monday, I was like, right, what are we doing here, buddy? There's nothing to clip,
It's nothing there. Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate.
Especially when we got to the top 16, it was like, okay.
That's why day one tournaments are so fun though. They're just, they're just a shit fest, and you're just like, yeah, go, everyone. Let's fight each other.
What happens? Yeah.
Underrated Exceed cards from the box. Number 70, Malevolent Sin. Oh my god, I love that card.
That is a great card. Yeah,
it's so good. I'm
using it in an auto duel deck, and the computer knows what to do with it, and it's great with it. So what are we seeing using that? Anybody that can?
For anyone that can make the level 4s, I think Noble Knights, this is what they're going to pick up. Automats definitely use it. And Automats can make 2 of these in a single turn, and it's not once per turn.
Right. You just banish monster and attack. It's great.
Yeah. So this is, very core to their OTK strategy. You just keep summoning these and keep banishing their monsters.
And then they grow in attack, too.
They grow in attack. That's a permanent attack boost. It doesn't go away. And yeah, it's just you can keep doing that, and it's any monster. So even if it's in defense mode, you can still banish it and get rid of it. So very, very, it's a dark monster as well, so it gets around this kind of anti-light meta that's happening, and very easy for them for Noble Knights to bring out. Pretty much every deck can run it. The only ones, I guess, with top decks like Desperado doesn't really spam monsters for Exceed purposes. So Diamond Direwolf is probably still better, just to get rid of your Alistair and Winda, so they get them in the graveyard to use them for other purposes. Or not Alistair, sorry. Your Twin Barrel Dragon, whatever you have for that. And then, of course, Neos for the Alistair. Would probably still want the Diamond Direwolf, just so you can also hit back row as well, because you already have a Purgatrio. But anything else can easily
Diamond Direwolf is probably like looking around like, oh, why is everybody looking at me all of a sudden? Because I was trying to think of stuff that gets run in decks where it's like, well, I put in these cards. I got 2 or 3 slots left. What should I put in here? It's like, throw Wolf in there.
He's
Throw
good. I mean, he pops any card, can be a back row or a monster, and he's an Earth monster, so you're not going to hit by Shadow Imprisoning, Dark Imprisoning. There's literally nothing counters Earth monsters.
Yeah, but you're going into 3 cards to pop one. I don't know. It just seems
Well, it
expensive.
depends, right? Because if you're, for example, in Neos, Invoke Neos, if you're one of those monsters, Alistair, you're like, hell yeah, let's
you're
get that
good.
Alistair into the graveyard, So it's just highly dependent, which is kind of cool. This is what I wanted out of Xyz to begin with. I wanted it to be more of like a toolbox, kind of situated to what deck you have, not just this Xyz is just good, so let's just play it in every deck.
Right.
Some of those cards are kind of ending up being like that, but slowly over time, things are changing, which is really, really nice. Other than that, Steel Swarm Roach, that's the other one. We actually had like a whole video on it.
Did that even see play? I didn't see it a whole lot. I saw, like you said, that
Not
one turn it was
really.
like Roach and what else, Bouncer or whatever.
Yeah, the only time he's useful is against Thunder Dragons, which it's only there to stop, the inherent summoning monster, the Levianeer, the Dragon Duo. Everything else gets summoned from special effects, but right now that's the only thing that he's relevant in. He's just gonna be meta dependent, like it just depends on what is being played essentially.
And this was the one we were like, it's the Roach. We were so excited about it. And
I think it was more just like the new rules that come with him rather than him specifically. Because the big thing is level 5, that clause level 5, and all the things that he would essentially want to stop are Exceed monsters, which don't have levels,
which are rank 5s. Yeah.
So he can't really do too much, unfortunately. But imagine we were in a metagame where we're like Xian, for example, right? Like someone tries to summon Xian, you would just stop the summoning of Xian.
Right.
So,
or 6 Sams.
Yeah.
What they do.
So it just kind of feels weird. He got placed in a metagame where he doesn't quite belong, but there's a very easy, imagine all the top decks, Desperado Nobles, Blue Eyes, they all get nerfed. There's a possibility he might actually become the best Xyz out of this box. It's just meta dependent.
So what was the clause again? What was the conditions? What has to happen?
So basically, it just has to be a level 5 or higher monster.
No, you're saying all these other decks have to get nerfed, and then the Roach would be good.
Basically, the top decks can't be like exceeding as much. We have to go back to a synchro meta, which might happen. Who knows? Probably.
Oh, here's a good question: Xyz meta versus synchro meta. What's the power level at? Are we going? I mean, we had some pretty good synchros, but Xyz are just starting out. Are we equal yet?
No.
Not even close.
No. So I kind of actually talked a little about this on stream a little bit. There is the reason a deck like Noble Knights is, in my opinion, the best in the game is because all the top decks we've received in this game have been nerfed into oblivion, right? Think of the top, just off the top of my head, decks that would beat Noble Knights if they were full power: Element Saber, Dark Lords, Witchcrafters, Katakuri. Like all these decks would be way, way stronger. The only deck that could like come back at relative full power, maybe full power, is Shiranui. Like Noble Knights is like around the power level of what a Shiranui deck would have been. Would actually be a really interesting matchup, like combo Shiranui versus full-on Noble Knights. Of course, that's not what would happen. It would be trap Shiranui for sure, but you go from there. Of course, I'm not talking about Grass Shiranui, because Grass Shiranui had a broken skill that got shadow buffed and then shadow nerfed. Not talking about that version. That version was, just as meta warping as what we're having right now, where, instead of playing like Quarantine and stuff, people just play 30 card decks to compensate for Grass's greener. But, ignoring that version, that's kind of around where we are with the power level of our current decks.
Yeah, it's greatly reduced, and we haven't seen the same level of
which is causing a little bit of restlessness, I guess, in the community, right? Because when you're used to kind of that power level where it's like, oh, I got flipped down, Purgatrio's coming next turn, so I might as well surrender this one. It can get kind of rough out here, but we're powering up. We're powering up slowly but surely.
I don't mind. I honestly think the game is in a good state, and if they can keep releasing decks that are similar to Blue Eyes and Noble Knights, I think it's going to be good. I think we need to get back to that not rock, paper, scissors meta, but maybe, you know, there's like 5-6 different choices or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I much prefer that than just one outstanding deck or just like 1 or 2 decks that are just better than everything else. It'd be nice if we could get back to like 4 or 5 good choices that we see in a tournament. And you never really know who's going to win. It's just all about the skill of the pilot.
It's funny you say that because before this new box came out, we were looking at tournament breakdowns, and the meta has been severely reduced, which is funny because before that, when it was like Desperado on top, it was kind of like the rogue decks were going like rampant all over the place.
Oh, there was like 20 to 25 different decks in the power rankings every week.
When you look at when you look at the top 32 and yeah, just looking at the power rankings, like just the rogue decks have kind of,
it's like 15 decks now. Last week was the week before was 13 decks.
Yeah. So I think now though, because this last Sunday, and again, it's all first tournament, everyone's trying something new, but it was greatly diversified. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 unique decks in the top 32 that Sunday. That's really the very first tournament of the new box. So we could be going back into a diverse metagame. I would very much so enjoy that. I don't like the rock, paper, scissors format. Some people do. Not for me though. Not my play style.
I think the players do because then it's easier to plan for.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Which
because they want to get beat by something that, you know, it's like, oh, I set it for it, I just got beat by a better player. They don't want to get beat by some deck out of left field. You know what I mean?
They just want to say he had the exact card to beat me.
Right. They don't want to be beat just by something they weren't prepared for.
Which is why I think this upcoming Casey Cup is going to be very, very, very interesting.
Which we'll go into in another video.
Let's go another video.
No, Casey Cup should be interesting. We'll definitely get into that. That's a whole other 45-minute video.
Yeah. The only thing you have to keep in mind for Casey Cup is side deck cards, like Ally Justice Quarantine, do significantly worse in that format. So
right, because you have to main deck them,
But also decks like Dragoonity that OTK you like crazy, or Photons do very well randomly for no reason.
So it's time to brush off the dust of your Lunalight deck. Your super heavy samurai deck.
Lunalight there's always at least one Lunalight in the top 100 in KC Cup because people they're like by day 2, these people are hard grinding. They're like, oh, I'm so tired. Play my Artorgus in attack mode. Oh shit, it's a Lunalight. I lose.
Yep. Exactly.
So, it is what it is.
All right, I think that covers everything for this week. Like you said, it should be an interesting week. I think we're just kind of in a holding pattern until then. After KC Cup, we'll see a ban list, we'll see a new box, and we'll see what's going on there. I mean, who knows? Maybe Automats and Photons, they just got to find their groove.
Yeah, like I said, this is all like literally this video is after 2 tournaments that I've casted. So, and in both those tournaments, the deck that outperformed all these decks was Sharks. So right. Like
a deck we're not even talking about. We're not.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna jump the gun and be like, yeah, the Sharks are the best Xyz decks of the new box, because I don't really think so.
Right.
I think there is stuff Automats hasn't shown yet. I think there's stuff that even decks like Thunder Dragon hasn't really shown yet. The Thunder Dragon deck has had way more depth added to it, but ultimately still bricks like crazy. So we'll have to see how it kind of turns out with that.
All right. So let us know what you guys think of the new meta, if we can call it a new meta, I guess, or the meta as it's shaping up right now with Photons and Automats. Are they having an effect? A lot of people are having a lot of fun with them on the ladder, I know that, but a tournament scene is a much different environment. So
Photon on ladders, it's like a mix. Take Dragoonity and take Dark Magician, and they had a baby. That's Photon.
Right. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. You lose fast, you win fast. Let's go.
Right. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here, but you should get in the Discord because it's free. Tournaments are free except Damage Step and Battle Phase Prime. Make sure to check those out. And let's see what else. Make sure to check out Ryan when he's doing the tournaments. Make sure to check out me on the new player stream on Saturday nights.
Yeah, Damage Step's happening this Sunday when this video goes up this Sunday. It's already over $300 thanks to Raid from the Raid sponsorship, so do not miss it. And it will be a side deck format. Keep that in mind.
All right. We're going to get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Rye.
Bye, YouTube.
We'll see you next time.